don't forget ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. I want to say welcome back and behave as though this is as normal as possible and everything is perfectly fine. But many of us know that that is definitely not the case. This week is very different. And it has been increasingly so since the last time I spoke to you. And so we have a lot to discuss in terms of the entire mission here, where I've been coming to you for over a year and telling you to stop writing alone, to find your people, to connect. And now many of us are thrust into a situation where we are unavoidably alone, possibly getting a lot of writing done if we are, not working and have this freedom of time. But it's not great either. There's so much to process with what's going on here. And one of the things that hit me as it started to unfold is that there is a little bit of experience in my past that is helping me feel somewhat prepared for it, that I felt like I could sort of pay forward to you. So I immediately started taking notes at the beginning of the week, which I don't normally do in such a precise way about what I wanted to discuss when I sat down to record this week. Because really what I want to help everyone with is how to find social connection beyond this social distancing. Because when I was initially diagnosed with my disease after leaving teaching, that is exactly what I was sort of thrust into. Not because anyone was forcing me to stay home, not because I was contagious in any way, but I was in such an incredible amount of pain and my vision was so poor that socializing and going out was really somewhat pointless for a lot of the time. So I never felt comfortable being physically with people. But there comes a time where you can't be alone too long without craving connection with people. So I found other ways. Everyone that is in a shelter in or a quarantine situation now is kind of stuck in this similar position where you're in your homes and maybe not getting those natural connections with everyone. And so what do we do? How do we deal with it? So here's a little thing that I just wrote when I sat down to first think about, like, what is social connection past the social distancing? Many people come to the internet to create themselves. Now is the time to come to the internet as ourselves. My first entryway into social media was raw, personal, and soul-bearing. I was terrified and seeking human connection in a way my body would not physically allow. The pain was too much, the vision was too weak. I was stuck in my home, alone, and desperately seeking connection. I found it. Real, legitimate, deep connection. It took me a long time to learn to use the internet in any other way than authentic reaching out. To make this work, we have to unlearn the greatest hits mentality of showing up. And I think that's what a lot of people may struggle with in this time right now, which is when we look at all of our social media representation. I mean, everybody talks about this. When you look at somebody's pictures online or their posts on Facebook or, any social media at all, it's always you're seeing the filtered pictures, the edited pictures, the posts that are talking about all the wins, but maybe not all of the truth that is behind that. And then when we are face to face with people, we say, this is the time that I will be my true authentic self. And that makes total sense. That's how humans work. But right now, when you don't have the face to face, there has to be a space for your real self to show up in this digital world. And I'm not suggesting that everybody bare their souls and throw all of their business up in, such a public forum like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. But to find the spaces, as I've been telling you for over a year now, to find your people and find ways to connect with them. Whether it is your family or friends and writing groups or book clubs or all of the people that you feel truly connected with, there are many tools that we have at our disposal these days that can help us make those authentic connections. I've talked about a lot of these tools in the past and, where they've benefited me and who I've connected with on each. But I just want to, again, give you a bit of a one-stop shop for all of these different tools at our fingertips that we could be using right now to make connections. Again, this is with your writing people, with your family, with your friends, with whoever you need to connect with right now. So one of the first and easiest is an app called Marco Polo. And I do have a writing accountability group that I meet with in Marco Polo. I have a couple of people from Stop Writing Alone that I meet with on Marco Polo. And then Marco Polo is like a staple in my family because my son and his grandmother are constantly Marco Poloing back and forth. So what is Marco Polo? It is basically an app on your phone. So I have an iPhone, and I'm pretty sure most of the apps that I am going to tell you about can be on other phones, but I'm not positive. So I'm just going to say that up front. But Marco Polo is an app where you do video messages back and forth to either a single individual or it could be within an entire group. So it's pretty much like text messaging, but instead of being a typed message, it's your face and you're talking. And, the person on the other end will receive a notification if they have their notifications on that you're giving them a message. But they don't have to watch it in real time. This is incredibly helpful for people that are on opposing schedules or in different time zones. And it is really, really helpful, particularly at times like this when you need to just see your people. As writers, of course, we all value the written word, and texting back and forth to people is, I think writers and readers can really feel all that comes through with that, but there is also a wonderful space to always leave open when you can look into the eyes of the person that you want to communicate with. So Marco Polo has that feature, of course, where you can do these recorded messages back and forth. And then it has a lot of fun little things, like my son is loving to do the voice changer on it and talk to his grandmother in helium voice. Even when I'm trying to tell her something serious and he changes my voice to helium. And you can write on the screen, and you can also type in short messages and share links and things like that. So that's why it's also helpful for our accountability groups. The one I guess, drawback is that you never really do a face-to-face real-time conversation like you would in something like FaceTime. It's always like one person's talking and then the next person talks, and it's a back and forth. Again, like a text message. But free app available to you right now, and really, really deep connections can happen over that. The other tool that I use daily is an app called Voxer, and you've probably heard me talk about it or at least write about it on social media pretty frequently in the past couple of months. And Voxer is an audio only messaging service. Well, audio, and you can also type messages back and forth, but it's similar, like a text type message. Everybody can leave a message, and then you just listen to it in a stream, like you would be reading your text messages one after another. And the great thing about this, again, free app. Of course, it has an upgradable version. I have no idea what awesomeness it could possibly afford you to pay. But at the free level, you can have multiple people in your group chat. Again, this is fantastic when you're talking to people that are on different schedules or in different time zones, which is what I currently have going on. This is where my mastermind meets, and we talk to each other every single day. And this has been one of the most helpful things in my life before this whole virus and everything, and definitely throughout, to know that every morning I have messages waiting for me and a group of women like that right there, just right there at all times, to just drop in a message and say something, and somebody is there to talk back to me. And again, while I value the written word and I can feel emotions being conveyed through that, there is something extra special when you can hear someone's voice on the other end. And Voxer, unlike if you try to do a voice message in Facebook Messenger, Voxer doesn't have a limit, at least that we have found, on the length of the voice message that you can leave for a person. So you could ramble for quite a bit. And again, you can have multiple people in the conversation, or you can go back and forth with just one person. And I find this to be an amazing way to connect with others. And again, in my particular group, it is 2 people on the East Coast. There are 2 people on the West Coast, and we have 2 people in the UK. And it is like we are all sitting in the same room talking all the time, because it's just a very really interesting play out of a conversation. And I highly, highly recommend it if you need to connect with people that are far from you, or at this point, we don't even have to be far away. We could just be in a separate space where we can't talk to each other in the way we're used to. I think this can mimic a regular conversation, again, with a free app. So that's fantastic. For real-time, face-to-face conversations, of course, everybody knows about Skype and FaceTime, but if you wanted to get like a larger group together, I really do love Zoom, which is a web conferencing app online, and you can just have conversations online with everyone. It can be video, it can be audio, it can be both. You can have some people that want to be on video and some people that just want to be on audio. And one of the great things that I love about Zoom is that you can get an app for the phone as well. So not everybody needs a computer hookup. So it could be either or. You could be on your computer with a webcam and a mic. You could be on your phone with just your headphones and just holding it up to your ear if you don't want to do video. It's really quite versatile, and the great thing is for collaborative groups, if you're working on some sort of writing project or you're trying to create something, Zoom also has like a share screen situation where you can share your computer screen and talk about what's going on there. So it's really great for working together. I just really am getting to love Zoom more and more that I use it. I have used it for interviews. So if you're curious about the audio quality, one interview that comes to mind that I did when I interviewed Jeff Goins, that was over Zoom. We were both doing just audio for that one. And also when I interviewed the ladies from Writing Class Radio, we used Zoom, and that was a video. We were face to face, and then I just pulled the audio from that for the podcast. So it's really, really great audio quality if that's something that you need, and really good video quality. And in fact, if you want to see a recorded Zoom conversation on the YouTube channel, Sam Kimberly and I just did a Zoom call in order to introduce like the YouTube audience to the Ever After writing retreat, and just to explain, all the things that we have planned going on for that retreat, which we are hoping will still be able to go on this May. I can't believe that I'm actually worried that something might not be happening in May. Another online app that is great for just collaborating with people is Slack, and I'm not great with Slack, but you can do a lot of file sharing and organizing of conversations. It's really great for larger groups, and I think many people are familiar with that one, so I don't feel like I have to go into it too much because I feel like a lot of workplaces use it. So maybe when you're home from work, you don't want to be using Slack. I don't know, but it is out there for us. I mean, this list goes on. These are the ones that I am using on nearly daily basis, and have made me feel steadily connected with all of my people right now in a time where my regular day-to-day is making me feel a little disconnected. So those are tools, but I do want to also just talk about the whole mental state of getting through something like this, because it is very difficult. And I speak from experience. I think the number one thing, and I've discussed this with Emily Harmon just at the end of last week. She called back anybody that had been interviewed on her podcast, Onward, which is a great podcast. If you haven't been listening to Emily's podcast, she interviews people that have overcome and moved onward in their lives from something to, start over or continue, just sort of battle through. And so she reached back into our archives and reached out to a bunch of us to ask, like, what do we do? And how, what is our advice for getting through this time? And the first thing that came to my mind when she asked me was patience. And that is, particularly here in New York, not something that we are used to, because everything is very fast. And I feel that's global now. It's, when I was younger, it was like a very New York thing and not really everywhere else. But with the internet and technology, we are all very immediate. We are always looking for fast answers. If we type something into Google and it takes more than 10 seconds to come up, we're huffing and puffing. And we're wondering what's wrong with our Wi-Fi. This particular time, and any illness of any kind, always requires patience and trust in our own healing. But for all of us, whether you are, God forbid, actually sick at this time, or if you are just doing the right thing and, staying sort of out of the way of this disease. It will require patience. You are going to require that sort of letting go of those immediate returns on everything, whether it's entertainment or work or just any kind of reprieve. But one of the things that helped me through my disease was understanding that, I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but it was a lot of very long headaches, like days long, multiple days of no reprieve. And, that's not fun. So how do you get through something like that? I started to shift the thinking in my mind and not think about, like, how long have I had this headache? Which the more you think about that, the more miserable it is. But I started to think that every minute in the pain was another minute closer to my next pain-free moment. And that's exactly how I'm dealing with this, and how I think if we can all shift our thinking, it is very helpful, rather than thinking about how long have I been cooped up in this house and not able to go to the movies, or what are the list of things that we can't do? Go to work. I can't even think right now, because I try so desperately not to think about what we can't. So part of it is to think that we are, every moment and every single day that we are in this, we are one day closer to the ending of it. And so we're just living that patience. And then the second and really, really important thing is positivity and our mindfulness, and where your mind is at, and always trying to check yourself. If you find yourself thinking negatively about what's going on, you have to just sort of stop and ask yourself, how can I shift this thinking? What is something else that I could be thinking about? Maybe even changing subjects in your head, but also trying to flip the script every single time. I had a bit of a freak out moment earlier in this week, and then I had to just stop and find the positivity, and a very easy path to that. If you don't know how to find silver linings, this is pretty much well known out there in the world these days, but I will just repeat it, is just gratitude. I just think about, well, what can I be thankful for in this moment? So I can be frustrated that I'm stuck in my house, but I can be incredibly grateful that I have this house and that it is a safe place for me to be in, and that there is food in the fridge, and all of these, like, you could just count off, and that, I am in a loving family, that I'm surrounded with people that I'm cool with hanging out with right now. It's pretty, you go small, you go real small, you could be grateful for the right now. I was just talking to one of my friends online about this, he was diving deep in anxiety because he's still working, going in and out of the city. He lives with his mother, who's older, and he says, I just feel like I'm putting her at risk every single day, and I can't get my head out of it. I'm just thinking of what's going to come next. And I said, pull it in, and just think of right now. There's always just come back to right now, because there is a lot of unknown about what comes next. So if you could just focus on right now, then it's easier to be positive. And then, the last and most important thing to get through something like this, and which will bring us full circle, is people. Just having your people. And yes, I understand that you may not have your people in your space with you at this moment, but that does not mean that you can't find them out there. There are so many people offering a free online connections and live streams and looking for ways to connect with everyone. Just get out there in any way that you can. If you are listening, if you are blessed that you can hear a podcast right now, which is another thing to be grateful for. If you can hear a podcast right now, then you have access to community. You can find community, whether you're listening through your phone, and I've given you a bunch of different apps that you can connect with people, or you are on your computer where you have access to the internet. You have people. It's now a matter of finding them. And you have Stop Writing Alone community. You have, if we just go through some of the communities that we were introduced to through this podcast, you have the 10-Minute Novelist is a Facebook group. You have Write Stuff, which is a Twitter chat that happens online, but Tamara Woods also has a Facebook group that's associated with that. Another Facebook group and community that I love to participate in is Scribblers, and that's the Facebook group that coincides with the subscription box, the Scribbler box for writers. It doesn't just have to be Facebook either. On Instagram, if you start looking for hashtags that you connect with, you can then find where people are meeting. But I will tell you this right now, and I think many of you know this, I am here. So whether or not you want to chat with me in Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, you want to send me an email, whatever it is, I'm here, and I am working toward bringing some live events to the community in the weeks to come. This particular week was very difficult for two reasons. Obviously, my son is home from school, and I've been doing the homeschooling bit, but he's also sick. Not, I pray, with anything really big, but it's still, taking a lot of my attention. Let's put it that way. But I have been able to connect with people in all of those apps. All of my people. Also, Facebook Messenger, I didn't mention. There are certain ways to connect with people that I feel are so well known that I didn't bring up, like Facebook Messenger or Twitter or any type of direct messages associated with our social media accounts that are so popular now, like Instagram. There are huge communities. I should never forget to mention this on Reddit. I just have been talking to a friend of mine about how I'm torn right in this moment, because one of the places where I found really great and supportive communities was Reddit. But Reddit is so enormous that it's very addicting, and I feel like if I step my toe back in there, I'll never come back out. But Reddit, which is reddit.com, if you are not familiar, is it is just like their tagline is that they are the front page of the internet, and they truly are. They encapsulate all that is the internet, the good, the bad, the ugly. But if you know what you like and you go seeking it out on Reddit, you will find it there, and you will find your people there. So, that's pretty much it. I feel like I rambled off my point, and I apologize for that. But it's been a bit of a week. My major point is this. You have been called to task to do social distancing. And for many people, that is a new thing, and it's really difficult. And I am just here to tell you, as somebody who intentionally or unintentionally did it for a long time, You can get through this with connecting to people without disrupting your life, but it takes work. It takes patience. It takes persistence. It takes a positive mindset. And then you do have to get to know the tools that are out there. But as I said on the top, one thing that you definitely need to do is unlearn the greatest hits mentality of showing up on the internet. Because if you want true connection with other people out there, then you have to show up as yourself. And I feel like most of the people that I met in Stop Writing Alone, almost everyone, I actually cannot think of someone who has not. But so let's just say everyone that I've met through Stop Writing Alone has shown up in that way. But maybe that's just how people show up to Stop Writing Alone. So if that's a safe space where you can do that, I love it. Continue. If you're struggling to find other safe spaces like that and you want to talk to me about it, we can find some together. But that's it. I am going to get some sleep because I know my son is not over whatever he has. And I'm going to need to be teacher mommy tomorrow again. And I'm still working to get all of our events together for Stop Writing Alone so we can connect. So keep an eye on the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Also at Stop Writing Alone on Instagram. I'll be posting in both places when we do have a live event going. And also what I wanted to shift right now is the Happy Campers Club, which is coming up in April. And I don't know if this will be over or not over. I don't know. But the early bird pricing had ended last week. And so it was back to its regular price of $50 for the month of April for a month long of this deep diving type of connection that we can do virtually that I'm talking about in this episode. I'm just going to drop it to $30 for the month, $1 a day, just because I think people really are going to need that kind of connection. So it's just a one-time fee for the entire month, lifetime access to the group, and we can really connect on this level. And hopefully by that point, we will also be able to stretch our legs and get out in the world. But here in New York City, I know the schools at the very least are closed for most of April. So I don't know what that means for everyone else, but I kind of feel like a big chunk of April will be needing this. So I'll put the link to the Happy Campers and joining in the show notes. So if you're interested in that month-long intensive, that'll be there. And like I said, I'll be bringing that price down right as I post this episode. Otherwise, I hope to speak to you soon. A little face-to-face time. We are going to get some Zoom calls in so that we can all be together in this time of social distancing. Thank you again for listening. If you need something extra to listen to this week, I feel really honored that Claire Oldham West, who is the host of the Slimming Stories podcast, which is all about various weight loss journeys. It's really quite inspirational. We are going through our own journey here in the house of weight loss, so I love tapping into Claire, and she's been my buddy since we started the Everyone Can podcast group together. We were in the course together, and she was so generous that this week she did a bonus episode where she featured Stop Writing Alone as her shout out. So she played one of our episodes for her audience, But I really do recommend just tapping into her podcast on the regular anyway, particularly if you are going through a weight loss journey of your own. Claire does not shy away from, all of the emotional nitty gritty that goes into that type of transition. And then the people that she's had on are just ridiculously inspiring. So, that is what I'll say, because we definitely have some extra listening time these days. So I'll be coming to you with various recommendations as we move forward. That is all for now. I wish you all well. I hope everyone is staying healthy, getting all the rest that we need, but make sure you also stay connected, find your people, and even now, there's no reason why you can't stop writing alone. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter where I'm at NV_Rivera to find links to our email newsletter.